Hi. I stopped doing these videos about 3 years ago over a range of concerns. However, since then, I can't really find any YouTube videos which cover what's generally termed activist witchcraft in the way that I would like to see. So I'm going to try doing a few myself in the hopes that it might cause the algorithm to lead me to other videos, because I'm sure somebody out there is doing something and I just have to find them. I'm going to experiment with what I'm doing, and I hope to come up with something better, or at the very least less bad, but that'll take a little bit of time. Now, I have limited time and energy, so for now I'm going to leave comments turned off, as I can't guarantee I will respond to or even read all the comments, if there's any, and I may change that policy in the future. Also, life obligations mean that these are never going to be highly researched, polished, professional presentations, so c'est la vie, as they say. So, what's on my mind today? Okay, so in terms of witchcraft activism and the subset of geopolitics, in my opinion, the major issues in the world today, well, this week really, are firstly the war in Gaza. And I'm not going to say much here, but I'll leave a link in the description to a blog post of mine which summarises what I'm trying to do at the moment. Secondly, the backlash to POTUS number 5, I won't use his name, being held accountable in the USA. The most useful description I've come across recently for 45 supporters is that they behave like a cult. So in terms of witchcraft activism actions, they need massive amounts of healing, clearing of unbalanced and unbalancing influences, and strengthening of their connections to their BPM guides. BPM is an acronym, or technically, probably more accurately, an initialization for balanced, positive, spiritually mature. I'll leave a link to explain that in the description as well. The other point is that those in power who can take action to manage risks around this need to be inspired to do their job properly. As someone outside the USA looking in, it looks to me very much like key people dragged their heels, or allowed or actively collaborated with the erectionists, which I do consider as the correct term, on the 6th of January. That needs to be prevented. Those with the power to act should use it to protect democracy in the USA. And because of the USA's unfortunately excessive influence, that's necessary also to help protect democracy elsewhere in the world. And all of that has to be done in a way which is BPM. The USA has a history of misinterpreting everything through a militaristic viewpoint. And I'm thinking particularly of George F. Kennan's warning to contain the USSR after World War II, which would have been best done, in my opinion, by strengthening democracy, not by military action. Mistaking brutality for firmness will only strengthen 45's cultus. So those with power to act need to have a clear, negative influence-free aura. They should be protected against any external unbalancing influences, but if those influences are intrinsic to them, that's not for us to interfere with. Thirdly, Ukraine. Russia must not be allowed to win, or more specifically perhaps Putin and his cabal, clique, whatever you want to term it, must not be allowed to win. But the extent and type of any European military involvement needs to be managed carefully. This is looking now a little bit like the early stages of US involvement in the Vietnam War, with a dash of the Cuban Missile Crisis thrown in for good measure. Calmness and patience will be needed by all, and that's what I'm going to be working to try and promote. By the way, I also do work for the Morrigan at times, and she is not seeking a bloody war by any means in my experience in this instance, although there may be other entities, group minds, or egregores, if you prefer that term, and uncooperatives who are. They need to be blocked at least and preferably effectively neutralised in the situation. But again, using only BPM energy and approaches. Do something in hate and anger, and it will come back at some stage in the future, possibly in that situation, in the form of resentment, motivating other people, etc. Fourthly, there are multiple situations in Africa which are severe, especially the situation in Sudan, where millions of people have been displaced, are experiencing the early stages of famine or progressed stages of famine, and mass atrocities that have also been described as genocide. Now, in the 1960s, the photos of starving children in Biafra seemed to me to trigger a wave of caring, and it actually resulted in an airlift of aid. Today's neoliberal poisoned world, my description, my opinion, appears to have lost that same degree of humanity, but it can be recovered in the same manner it was lost, slowly, step by step. In this case, the recovery begins with urging people to notice, especially in Africa, and then to care, and then to find a way to actually help, or to demand that those who've been delegated the power to act, do so act in accordance with their community's wishes. Information can be found about the situations in Africa, which I'm including in my news posts. And Africa's not lacking in caring. Many nations there take on refugee numbers that, both as absolute numbers and as a percentage of their populations, put other nations to shame. Kenya has taken the most robust actions of any nation, in my opinion, to help Haiti. 2 African nations now have had the integrity to set an example to the rest of the world by commencing actions in the ICJ regarding genocide, or potential or alleged genocide. And this is all being done despite suffering staggering abuses from colonialism, which has also affected other nations, including mine. But it seems to me that this week the African spirit is leading the way. Maybe Ubuntu is the word for all of us to consider this week. I'll leave it at that for now. I'll leave this video at that for now. I wish you a week that is balanced, positive and spiritually mature, with, to borrow from Buddhism and with apologies for mispronunciations, metta or loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, appreciative joy, and upekkha, equanimity. Be well.